Something important has just happened at the Central Bank of Iraq, and it has caught the attention of investors around the world. If you own Iraqi Dinar or regularly follow Iraq's financial system, today's update is one you should not ignore. This discussion is based on official developments rather than internet rumors. Our goal is to separate confirmed facts from speculation and understand what these changes could realistically mean. For years, the Iraqi dinar has been surrounded by countless theories, predictions, and expectations. Every announcement from the central bank often creates excitement because many people believe Iraq is moving closer to a major transformation. While some reports have been exaggerated in the past, today's update deserves attention because it comes directly from official institutional sources. In this video, we'll examine exactly what the central bank announced, why the timing is important, and how these developments fit into Iraq's broader economic reforms. We'll also explain the difference between redenomination and revaluation, two terms that are often confused but have completely different meanings. Understanding this distinction is essential for anyone interested in the Iraqi dinar. Let's begin with the announcement itself. Whenever the words new banknotes or redenomination appear in an official CBI statement, investors naturally begin asking questions. Does this mean Iraq is preparing to increase the value of its currency? Is this the beginning of long-awaited monetary reform? Or is it simply a technical update to improve the country's cash system? These are important questions, but they require careful analysis instead of emotional reactions. One of the biggest mistakes made in the Iraqi dinar community is assuming that every currency reform automatically leads to a higher exchange rate. History shows that this is not always the case. Many countries have redesigned their currencies without changing their international value. That is why understanding the purpose behind the reform is far more important than reacting to headlines alone. Security conditions have improved considerably across much of the country. Government institutions are functioning more effectively, foreign investment projects have increased, and Iraq has continued rebuilding infrastructure damaged during years of conflict. These improvements create conditions that are much more favorable for long-term financial reforms. At the same time, Iraq's banking sector has been undergoing significant modernization. Electronic payment systems continue expanding, digital banking services are becoming more common, and the government has encouraged citizens to rely less on cash transactions. These reforms may not receive major international headlines, but they play an important role in strengthening the financial system. Modern central banks constantly update their currency to stay ahead of counterfeiters and improve efficiency. Many developed countries regularly redesign banknotes without generating public concern. New security threads, holograms, color-shifting ink, and advanced printing technologies help protect the integrity of national currencies. The Central Bank of Iraq appears to be following the same path by introducing updated banknotes that are more secure and easier to authenticate. From a technical perspective, this represents a normal function of a modern central bank. However, because Iraq has discussed broader monetary reforms for many years, investors naturally wonder whether these changes are connected to something larger. This brings us to one of the most misunderstood subjects in the entire Iraqi dinar market: the difference between redenomination and revaluation. Nothing magical happens during a redenomination. Prices, salaries, savings, and bank balances are adjusted accordingly. It mainly simplifies accounting, reduces the number of zeros used in everyday transactions, and improves confidence in the currency after years of inflation or instability. A revaluation is completely different. Instead of changing the appearance or denomination of the currency, a revaluation changes its official exchange rate against foreign currencies, such as the US dollar. If a country officially increases the value of its currency, each unit becomes more valuable internationally. This is the event many Iraqi dinar investors hope could occur someday. Unfortunately, many people mistakenly use these two terms as if they mean the same thing. They do not. Confusing them often leads to unrealistic expectations and misunderstandings whenever the central bank releases new information. Large infrastructure projects have been announced across transportation, housing, energy, and industrial development. International companies continue signing agreements with Iraqi authorities, while government officials have worked to improve the country's business environment. Parliament has also approved significant federal budgets focused on reconstruction and economic growth. These investments demonstrate that Iraq expects to continue generating substantial revenues over the coming years. Another encouraging sign is Iraq's ongoing relationship with international financial institutions. The International Monetary Fund continues working closely with Iraqi policymakers by providing technical advice and reviewing economic reforms. Although the IMF does not control Iraq's monetary policy, its continued engagement signals confidence in Iraq's willingness to improve financial governance and economic stability. International cooperation also helps Iraq modernize banking regulations, strengthen financial oversight, and increase transparency within the country's banking system. All of these developments matter because monetary policy never operates in isolation. A central bank does not redesign its national currency without considering inflation, reserves, banking reforms, international trade, and long-term economic planning. Every major decision is connected to the country's overall financial strategy. That is why today's announcement should be viewed as one piece of a much larger economic transformation rather than as a standalone event. Many investors focus only on exchange rates, but professional economists examine the entire financial picture. Currency modernization, banking reforms, digital payment expansion, stronger reserves, budget planning, and investment policies all work together to create a stronger monetary system over time. The Iraqi Dinar story is not simply about one exchange rate. It is about the gradual rebuilding of an economy that has faced decades of war, sanctions, political instability, and financial challenges. Every reform may appear small on its own, but together, they represent steady progress toward a more modern financial system. And that is exactly why today's announcement has attracted so much attention. The redesign of Iraq's currency is not happening in isolation. It is taking place alongside broader economic reforms that continue reshaping the country's financial future. Now, let's turn our attention to Iraq's exchange rate because this is where most investors naturally focus. While redesigned banknotes have generated significant interest, the value of the Iraqi dinar against the US dollar remains the question everyone wants answered. Understanding how the exchange rate works is essential before drawing any conclusions. At the beginning of 2023, the Central Bank of Iraq adjusted the official exchange rate from approximately 1,460 dinars per US dollar to around 1,310 dinars per dollar. This was not a random decision. It was part of a broader effort to stabilize Iraq's financial markets and reduce pressure in the country's parallel currency market. The adjustment also reflected cooperation between Iraq and several international financial partners. Officials wanted to strengthen confidence in the banking system, improve access to foreign currency, and narrow the gap between official and street market exchange rates. While challenges remain, the policy demonstrated that Iraq's monetary authorities are actively managing the country's financial system. For investors, this is an important reminder that exchange rates are not fixed forever. Central banks can adjust them when economic conditions justify doing so. However, those decisions are usually based on inflation, reserves, trade balances, and overall economic stability rather than public expectations or speculation. Another major factor supporting Iraq's financial position is its foreign currency reserves. Over the past several years, Iraq has accumulated substantial reserves thanks largely to strong oil exports. These reserves act as a financial safety net and give the central bank greater flexibility when managing the dinar. Strong reserves allow a central bank to defend its currency during periods of volatility. They also increase confidence among international investors because they demonstrate that the country has sufficient foreign assets to support its monetary system. In Iraq's case, growing reserves have strengthened the central bank's ability to maintain stability. Because oil exports generate US dollars, they directly contribute to Iraq's foreign exchange reserves. Those reserves support government spending, infrastructure development, and monetary policy. This is one reason economists closely monitor oil markets whenever discussing the Iraqi dinar. However, relying heavily on oil also creates challenges. Global energy prices can rise or fall quickly depending on economic conditions, geopolitical events, or production decisions made by OPEC and its partners. A sharp decline in oil prices could reduce government revenue and place additional pressure on Iraq's budget. Recognizing this risk, Iraqi officials have repeatedly emphasized economic diversification. Their goal is to develop industries beyond oil, including manufacturing, agriculture, tourism, technology, and private sector investment. Although this transformation will take time, reducing dependence on a single source of income remains one of Iraq's long-term priorities. The banking sector has also experienced significant reforms in recent years. Iraq has expanded electronic payment systems, encouraged digital banking, and introduced measures designed to reduce the use of physical cash. These changes improve financial transparency while making everyday transactions easier for businesses and consumers. Modern banking infrastructure is especially important because it attracts foreign investors. International companies are far more likely to invest in countries where banking systems operate efficiently, payments move quickly, and financial regulations meet global standards. Iraq understands this reality and continues working toward modernization. Another important element is international confidence. Organizations such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank continue engaging with Iraq on economic reforms, fiscal policy, and financial governance. While these institutions do not determine Iraq's exchange rate, their involvement often strengthens investor confidence. International cooperation also encourages reforms that improve transparency, strengthen banking supervision, and reduce financial risk. Over time, these improvements can create a healthier investment climate, making Iraq more attractive to businesses around the world. So what does all of this mean for Iraqi dinar holders? The confirmed facts are encouraging. Iraq's economy is more stable than it was several years ago. Oil revenues remain strong, foreign reserves have improved, banking reforms continue, and the central bank is modernizing the nation's currency. These developments point toward a country working to strengthen its financial foundation. However, responsible analysis also requires acknowledging uncertainty. None of these developments automatically guarantee that the Iraqi dinar will experience a dramatic appreciation against the US dollar. Monetary policy is influenced by many variables, including inflation, government priorities, regional stability, and international financial conditions. One of the reasons the Iraqi dinar community often becomes divided is because different analysts interpret the same information differently. Some believe every reform is evidence that a major exchange rate adjustment is approaching. Others argue that Iraq is simply modernizing its financial system without preparing for a significant currency appreciation. The truth is that nobody outside the central bank can predict future policy decisions with certainty. Markets reward patience rather than emotion. Investors who make decisions based only on rumors often find themselves disappointed when expectations fail to match reality. By contrast, those who focus on verified information usually develop a much clearer understanding of long-term trends. History also teaches an important lesson. Countries that successfully modernize their currencies generally follow carefully planned implementation schedules. Governments announce changes well in advance, educate the public, coordinate with financial institutions, and allow sufficient time for businesses and citizens to adjust. Turkey's currency reform in 2005 is one well-known example. After years of inflation, 6 zeros were removed from the Turkish lira, and new banknotes gradually replaced the old ones. The transition was orderly because authorities communicated clearly and provided a structured exchange period. Other countries have followed similar paths, introducing redesigned currencies as part of broader economic stabilization efforts. In nearly every case, successful implementation depended on planning, public confidence, and institutional coordination rather than sudden announcements. Iraq appears to be moving carefully as well. Instead of rushing major reforms, officials have introduced changes gradually while continuing to strengthen the country's banking system. This measured approach may seem slow to some investors, but it often reduces financial disruption. If the central bank eventually launches new banknotes, it will almost certainly provide detailed instructions explaining how the exchange process will work, how long old notes remain valid, and what procedures banks should follow. Transparency will be essential to maintaining public confidence. For now, investors should pay close attention to official CBI statements rather than relying solely on social media discussions or anonymous online sources. Verified information provides a much stronger foundation for decision-making than speculation or sensational headlines. Ultimately, Iraq's financial transformation is a long-term story rather than a single event. Each reform builds upon previous reforms, gradually creating a stronger banking system and a more stable economic environment. Today's announcement about redesigned banknotes fits within that larger picture. While many questions remain unanswered, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Iraq continues moving toward a more modern and internationally connected financial system.